Despite being the former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan has a very slim pathway to victory. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and today it is time to talk about the 2024 Maryland Senate race because everyone, the state of Maryland has been one of, if not the most democratic states in the country for decades now. It's not a surprise to anyone. It voted for Biden by over 30 points. Usually when we talk about Maryland, we only talk about the Democratic primaries because who cares who wins the Republican Senate primary? Usually, because, you know, it's Maryland. It's one of the most democratic states in the country. It doesn't really matter who you run. But for the first time in years, Republicans have possibly their best opportunity to win. And that's because they picked former Governor Larry Hogan as their nominee, who, by the way, has a history of winning statewide races in Maryland. Now, before we continue with today's video, I hope you enjoy these type of videos. If you do, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Again, folks, all support is greatly appreciated, and yeah. Now, I do want to be clear that just because Hogan is a good recruit, he is. He's not the best on the issues, but for Maryland standards, he is the best chance at winning you're gonna get. But despite that, Democrats are still favored here. This is not, you know, Virginia, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, hell, even New York. It is way more Democratic than any of those states. And even with Hogan running, who, by the way, he is your best chance at winning. You're not going to get anyone else that has a realistic pathway to victory. Despite that, Democrats are still the clear favorites in the race. But Hogan still has a chance. It's not likely, but he does have a pathway to victory, so let's get into it. Larry Hogan just sailed through a GOP primary, his next act shedding that partisan identity, and that's going to be the biggest question. Will the voters of Maryland think of Hogan as the former governor from 4 years ago that's very moderate, or are they going to affiliate Hogan with Trump? That's the biggest problem he's going to have, because if voters think, oh, he's just a Republican, it doesn't matter if he's seen as a centrist Republican or even just a generic one. It doesn't matter. And he is a very moderate dude. Despite that, these voters, they're not going to vote for him. As he pivots to a general election in deep blue Maryland, the former governor will have to convince voters that he's the local moderate they trust enough to elect twice as governor, not the Republican who would likely deliver the Senate to the GOP. Like I said, that's the deciding factor here. If enough Democrats think, I'll vote for the guy, you know, he is the moderate in the race. He's the better option. If enough voters think like that, he can win. The problem he has is, this is Maryland. This is not New Hampshire. This is not New Jersey. You have to peel away so many Democrats in a very deep blue state. It is very difficult. Now, he did it as the gubernatorial candidate twice. He won twice. The problem is, those were in low turnout midterms. One of them was in a red wave in 2014, and the other, it was a blue wave, but the problem is, it was very low turnout, especially compared to presidential races. Like 2014 especially, that like 15 people voted. No one voted in that year, and that's why Republicans did so good. But now, you're in a presidential year with high turnout, and this is a Senate race. This is not a governor's race. A governor race, it's less polarized. That's how you see someone like Larry Hogan win in Maryland. And Prince George's County Executive Angela Olsobrooks, the Democratic nominee, will be working to remind voters of exactly those national stakes. Hogan's math is daunting. He needs to peel away enough Democratic voters in a state that Trump lost by 33 points without alienating the Republicans that will form the core of his coalition. Just that margin alone, Trump lost it by 33. And I like they brought this part up. Despite losing by 33, you just cannot rely on Democrats' support. Yes, you need Democrats to win, but at the same time, in Maryland, you cannot afford to lose any Republicans. If one Republican thinks, this guy's too moderate, who cares if he wins or not, I'm just not going to vote. If you get a few thousand that decide to do that, you're screwed. And that's one of the other problems for Hogan. He has to find a way to have a happy medium. And a lot of idiots on Twitter think, oh, if you're a moderate, you're going to win no matter what. No. Because, yeah, you need independents, you need Democrats, especially in Maryland, but if you piss off your core base, you're screwed. That will require bridging party divides in an age of depolarization and define the rapid nationalization of politics. The task is made even more challenging by the man he will share a ballot with, former President Donald Trump. But Hogan might be the one Republican to pull this off. Now, like this says, he is a Trump critic. But at the same time, he's nowhere near as egregious as Mitt Romney. He said some dumb stuff about Trump, but it was nowhere near as pathetic as Mitt Romney. Plus, it makes sense because it is Maryland. It is a D+30 state. This isn't a state like Utah where you should not be attacking Trump like Romney was. But Hogan's the one Republican that there are a ton of Democrats and independents in the state. They just like the guy. They believe and understand that he's a true moderate. Why do you think he had, like, what, a 65% approval rating when he left office? It was incredible. He had very high numbers for any Republican, let alone in Maryland. A lot of Democrats really liked him. The problem is, he's sharing the ballot with Trump in a presidential year. Hogan is a well-established Trump critic, and Trump is known for lashing out at his perceived enemies, but the former president has been staying out of the race, which is a miracle. I really thought by now we would have seen Trump go after Hogan. Now, it appears that Andy Harris, the lone congressman that's a Republican in the state, he talked to Trump, and it appears that Trump is not going to attack Larry Hogan this cycle. That is incredibly smart. I don't like Hogan. He's not the best Republican in the world, but let's face it. He is the best chance at winning in the state. You're not going to get any better than Hogan. Is he the best? No. But what would you rather have in a deep blue state? This isn't like Utah, where you have to deal with Mitt Romney. Would you rather have a complete partisan hack like Brooks? Or would you want someone like Hogan, who, while he will screw you over every now and again as a Republican, he still will support, like, half of the agenda for Trump, or theoretically, even 40%. Hell, maybe even 30%. It's not the best thing in the world, but I would much rather have someone like Hogan, who's an actual moderate, has a reason to be anti-Trump, than a partisan Democrat. But there are some people that are not going to be happy with that, and I understand that. You don't want people like Larry Hogan running the majority. But at the same time, I would much rather have in a deep blue state a moderate Republican that's not going to be good than a partisan Democrat. But Hogan won't want to be seen cozying up to Trump either. Democrats will be trying to tie the two men together and emphasizing the national importance of the race. And yeah, if Democrats lose Maryland, they're screwed. They are not going to get the majority. Even if Ohio and Montana vote Democrat, Democrats have lost the majority if Hogan won. Now, that majority would suck, but at least Republicans would have some kind of majority with Trump. Now, if Hogan wins, I guarantee you that people like Bernie Moreno, Tim Sheehy, they're going to win also. It's going to be hard for him to escape the Trump factor because he's running on the Republican ticket, said Senator Chris Van Hollen, who supported Brooks in the primary. If he were elected, he would turn the keys over of the Senate to the MAGA Republicans. Of course. We're going back to this messaging by the Democrats. Even Larry Hogan is considered a MAGA Republican. Yeah. MAGA Republican, everyone. Larry Hogan. It doesn't matter if it's Charlie Baker, Larry Hogan, Phil Scott, any Republican except like Liz Cheney. Hogan knows it and is running on a message of independence. His primary victim speech included a solemn vow to the women of Maryland that he would protect their abortion rights, seeking to defuse a powerful issue where Democrats have the advantage. It's cringe, but you have to do it. You have to do this type of crap in Maryland if you want to win. Now, in a deep red state or even a swing state, you shouldn't be doing this, but you gotta give Hogan some leeway. This is Maryland we're talking about. This isn't a deep red state. He invoked his father, the first GOP congressman on the Judiciary Committee, to support the impeachment of Richard Nixon, emphasizing his commitment to principles over party. And without naming Trump once, he promised to stand up to the current president, the former president, to the Democratic Party, or the Republican Party. And for Maryland, this might be smart. Listen, I'm a fan of Richard Nixon, but in this situation, you have to be seen as the independent. If your father's known for, voting to impeach Nixon despite being a Republican, in a state like Maryland, that might help. I know that sounds crazy, but for some voters, they would seriously say, oh yeah, he's a true independent because he voted against Nixon. But notice the last part. He said he wants to stand up to the former president, the current president, to both parties. This is the type of messaging that he needs to have in order to win. Because if he is seen as the guy that's going to be a true moderate, attack both sides, but work with both sides at the same time, be a true independent, he has a chance at winning. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to attack both sides, saying, I will stand up to both presidents, I will stand up to both parties, I will represent Maryland in the Senate. You can see the distance between himself and Joe Biden, the distance between himself and Donald Trump, said Senator Steve Daines, who leads the Senate GOP campaign arm and helped recruit Hogan. Larry sees the brokenness of Washington and is somebody who will bring the body together as more of an independent voice, and that is really needed. Bipartisanship in the Senate usually isn't good, but you have to say this type of stuff in order to win. If he's seen as the real independent who's going to stand up to both sides but work with everyone, you have to do what you got to do. If you want to win, you have to say stuff like that. On Wednesday, Hogan rolled out a Democrats for Hogan coalition led by a former Democratic state senator. The announcement described Hogan as a bipartisan independent and doesn't mention he's a Republican at all, which is a very smart move. You should try to get as many Democrats to support you. It doesn't matter if they are state senators, state representatives, hell, even former congressmen. If you can win over any kind of Democrat support, that's going to help you. That's going to give you some credibility. Hogan will need to keep this Maryland Senate race from boiling down to a referendum on Senate control, so he's focusing on his track record as a popular anti-Trump governor with a history of working across the aisle. He has some advantages in that effort, with 8 years of executive experience that is well known to the state's voters, high name ID, and the backing of national Republicans who can help support him financially. This last part does worry me a little bit. Don't spend $500 million on Maryland. Yes, you have your best chance at winning here. I understand that. That doesn't mean you should be spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Make Democrats waste money here, fine. But don't spend like $500 million on this seat when you're probably going to lose. It would be a dumb idea to do so. And you should not be relying on a D+30 state to decide the majority. If Hogan wins, good. You for sure got the majority at that point. You probably won Ohio and Montana. You added to the majority by an extra seat. But if he loses, it sucks, but he gave it a good fight and made Democrats spend a lot of money. But either way, this race, I think Democrats are the favorites. Yes, Hogan is a strong recruit. Yes, he's well-liked. The problem is, this is Maryland. This is not, a low turnout governor's election in 2018. This is a presidential race that's on the top of the ballot. But if Hogan can somehow find a way to navigate through being a Republican and being an actual moderate, he might have a chance. But it is to be determined. Some polling indicates he is actually winning. But is that because of name recognition? We just gotta see. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.